Hey everyone. So, something totally bizarre happened at my job, and I swear it's like something straight out of a movie or one of those wild stories you hear and never believe. It all started a few months back, and let me tell you, it's been a roller coaster. We've got this coworker, let's call her Sarah. Sarah has always been a bit off, kind of keeps to herself, but every once in a while she comes out with something that just makes you go, huh? Then there's John. John's a pretty chill guy, keeps his head down, does his work, and has that sort of vibe that makes you feel like you can trust him with just about anything. One day, we're all sitting in the break room, just munching on our lunches and talking about the usual TV shows, weekend plans, the new coffee machine that, surprise, surprise, already broke. Then, out of nowhere, Sarah goes, I need to tell you all something serious. We all kind of quiet down, thinking maybe she's going to announce she's leaving or something. But no, Sarah looks straight at John and says, I know what you've been doing. I know you've been practicing witchcraft against me. You could have heard a pin drop. We all just stared, not sure if we heard her right. Then, awkward laughs. Because seriously, witchcraft. This is the 21st century, right? But Sarah, she's dead serious. Claims she's got evidence. Weird dreams, a feeling of being watched, bad luck streaks, you name it. And all because, get this, she found a weird-looking rock by her desk that she decided was a curse stone or something. And obviously, it had to be John, because who else? John, poor guy, looks like he's trying to decide if he should laugh or run. He settles on a confused, I'm sorry, what? But Sarah's not having it. She's convinced, and she wants HR to do something about it. I'll be honest, I thought it would blow over. Like, how do you even begin to handle a witchcraft accusation at work? But nope, it's spiraled. Big time. And that was just the beginning. You'd think it couldn't get more bizarre, but oh, it did. After the break room showdown, things got tense. Sarah was on a mission, and John, well, he was bewildered, to say the least. The rest of us? We were caught in the middle, unsure whether to laugh or worry. But laugh we did, behind closed doors because, come on, witchcraft. The next act in this drama unfolded when Sarah marched to HR, and not just any HR rep, but Ms. HR herself, the kind-hearted, always smiling lady who seemed to have stepped right out of an HR handbook on conflict resolution. Sarah demanded action, armed with her evidence, a list of grievances that sounded more like a witch trial testimony than anything you'd expect in a modern office. Ms. HR, bless her soul, managed to keep a straight face. She called a meeting, inviting me as a witness to the original accusation, John, Sarah, and a couple of other folks from the office who could supposedly corroborate some parts of Sarah's story. Sitting in that conference room felt surreal. Sarah laid out her case, speaking about energy shifts, protective circles, and how John's supposed witchcraft had made her life a living nightmare. John just sat there, flabbergasted, repeating that he didn't even know how to respond to something so absurd. Ms. HR tried to mediate, suggesting perhaps there had been a misunderstanding, maybe even offering workplace mediation or counseling. But Sarah was having none of it. She wanted John investigated, or better yet, fired, for his dark arts. The meeting ended with no real resolution. Ms. HR promised to look into the matter further, but what could she really do? Investigate non-existent witchcraft? It was a no-win situation. The rumor mill went into overdrive, and the office was divided. Team witchcraft versus team reality, if you will. In the weeks that followed, things went from bad to worse. Sarah's behavior became more erratic. She started wearing what she claimed were protective amulets and even sprinkled salt around her desk. John, on the other hand, tried to keep his head down, but the stress was getting to him. You could see it. I found myself in the uncomfortable position of trying to navigate this madness. I wanted to support John because, come on, witchcraft. But I also felt bad for Sarah. It was clear something deeper was going on with her, something that had little to do with John and more to do with her mental state. This whole situation was affecting not just John and Sarah, but all of us. Productivity took a nosedive, and the atmosphere was charged with a mix of fear, confusion, and an ever-growing sense of absurdity. As much as I wish I could say things improved from there, they didn't. The climax of this whole debacle was something none of us could have predicted. leading to an outcome that was both tragic and, in a weird way, a relief. The saga took a turn for the dramatic not long after that infamous HR meeting. The office had become a battleground of whispered theories and sidelong glances. Sarah, with her amulets and salt, had become a figure of both mockery and fear. John, ever the calm in the storm, tried to maintain his dignity, but the strain was evident in his eyes. As for me, I was stuck in the middle, playing the reluctant diplomat in a conflict that seemed more suited to the pages of a historical witch trial record than a modern-day office. It all came to a head one gloomy Tuesday morning. The kind of day where the sky is so overcast you could swear it's pressing down on the building. I arrived early to find Sarah already at her desk, muttering to herself and rearranging her protective symbols. John walked in shortly after, offering me a tired smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The tension in the air was palpable. The day passed in a blur of awkward exchanges and forced normalcy until the afternoon brought with it a scene straight out of a movie. Sarah confronted John right in the middle of the open office, accusations flying like sparks from a fire. She claimed she had undeniable proof of his witchcraft, waving a piece of paper that she said was a spell aimed at her. John, looking more weary than angry, denied it all, his voice steady but his hands trembling. The confrontation escalated quickly, voices rising, until Sarah's accusations turned into screams. That's when Ms. HR intervened, her usual calm demeanor replaced by firm decisiveness. She escorted Sarah out of the office, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. The aftermath was a whirlwind of emergency meetings and whispered conversations. Sarah was placed on administrative leave pending a psychological evaluation. It was a decision met with relief by most, but also a deep-seated sadness. It was clear now that Sarah was battling demons far beyond anyone's comprehension, and her accusations were a manifestation of her struggles. I remember sitting at my desk long after everyone had left, the events of the day replaying in my mind. There was a heavy feeling in my chest, a mix of pity, fear, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. It was one thing to joke about witchcraft and office politics, but it was entirely another to watch someone's life unravel before your eyes. The office felt different in the days that followed. There was an unspoken agreement not to discuss what had happened, but the elephant in the room was too large to ignore. Work resumed, deadlines were met, but the laughter had dimmed. John was back at his desk, his usual efficiency somewhat diminished by the shadows under his eyes. Then came the news that hit all of us like a cold wave. Sarah had been hospitalized for a mental health evaluation. The details were scarce, shared in hushed tones and sad glances. It was a sobering end to a saga that had started almost like a joke. I found myself reflecting on the entire ordeal, the absurdity of the accusation, the chaos it had wrought, and the very real consequences it had for Sarah, John, and all of us caught in the crossfire. The story of witchcraft in the office would likely become one of those unbelievable tales told to new hires. Just when we thought the story had reached its conclusion, with lessons learned and a return to some semblance of normalcy, the unexpected happened, turning our office saga into something straight out of a suspense thriller. A few weeks had passed since Sarah was hospitalized. The office had slowly started to find its rhythm again. Conversations were no longer whispered, and the weight of the past months seemed to lift gradually. John had even started to smile more, his old humor peeking through the shadows of the ordeal. Then, one ordinary Thursday, the extraordinary happened. I was at my desk, lost in the sea of emails, when a chill ran down my spine. It was one of those feelings you can't quite explain, a sudden drop in the atmosphere that makes you look up and scan your surroundings. That's when I saw her, Sarah. She was back, but not in any way we could have anticipated. Her appearance was disheveled, her eyes wild with a fervor that made my heart skip a beat. She moved through the office like a storm, her voice rising in an incantation that was both haunting and sad. She was cursing the workplace, proclaiming doom upon all who had wronged her, her words a tangled mix of anger and despair. The office froze in a collective shock. This couldn't be happening, not again. But there she was, a specter from a chapter we thought closed. Before anyone could react, security was on her, gently but firmly guiding her away. Her curses echoed off the walls as she was taken from the premises, a chilling reminder of the thin veil between sanity and madness. The aftermath of her return was a mixture of fear, sadness, and disbelief. Questions arose that no one had the answers to. How had she escaped? Why return to the place that had caused her so much turmoil? The event reopened old wounds, reminding us of the fragility of the peace we had taken for granted. In the days that followed, the office was quieter than it had ever been. Ms. HR organized counseling sessions for any staff affected by the incident, understanding the deep impact it had on our collective psyche. John was given some time off, the event having taken a toll on him more than anyone else. And that's it. This is the weird office story I had to share.